you so much, Joe, and thank you so much for making me feel slightly awkward for the description. But it would be wonderful if our panelists could just pop on their cameras for us. I've been chatting to Emma. I know Chevy's here. Morning or good afternoon, Emma. Chevy's here.
Hello.
Hi, how are you all doing? Brian, I believe you said you were going to control the slides. Is that right?
Yes, John, sorry. Yes, I will do. Yes.
Okay. Well, I think first thing we need to do is just have a very brief introduction for our speakers. Chris, can you pop your camera on? Is that our Chris? Yes, it is.
Hello.
Hello.
I've not got a camera that works, unfortunately.
Oh, the old I've not got a camera that works trick. Okay. Well, on that basis, we will start with just a very brief introduction of who you are. Emma, would you like to just introduce yourself?
Yeah, so I think I've got some slides.
Just your name's Emma Philpott. You are from...
Okay, I'm Emma Philpott. I'm the CEO of IASME. We are the Cyber Essentials partner for the UK government. So we roll out IASME and we have our own certification schemes as well.
Perfect. Karl.
Hello.
Hello.
Hello, I'm DC Karl Barlow. I'm a detective in cybercrime for Nottinghamshire Police.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. And Chevy is great.
Hiya.
Hi.
Yeah, my name is Shiv. I work as a cyber protect officer for East Midlands Special Operations Unit.
Thank you very much. Chris?
Hello, I think I've got it. My name is Chris, and I'm a cyber protect officer for East Midlands Special Operations Unit.
So it's really wonderful that you're all here. Thank you so much for taking the time at all to participate in this panel. And I think one of the excellent perspectives that we've got from compliance. People have to have regulations in the world of cybersecurity, but we also know that there are nefarious individuals out there. And many of us who are trying to operate in a digital environment and in the digital world need to have some assurance and level of protection. And we're very glad that the police are participating in this. So what I'd like to do is I'd like to start with, have you guys got slides, by the way, Chris, Chevy?
We do.
Yeah?
Yep.
Ooh, Brian, do you have those slides?
I don't, but I can make people co-hosts if you'd like to share them yourselves. That's fine. I've got Emma's slides.
Right. In that case, Emma, the floor is yours.
Brilliant. Thank you very much. Are you going to share the slides?
Yes, Brian's about to make the slides.
Brilliant.
Visible. There we go. Look at that.
Can you put them on slideshow?
Yeah.
Gonna try, I think. And he'll probably have to.
Fantastic.
Wow, look at that.
Thank you. So next slide already, please. So just a little bit about IASME. Not many people have heard of us. We're a small company based in rural Malvern. We're up on the hills. And since April 2020, we've been the sole Cyber Essentials partner for the UK government. We do run other certifications, as I said, including a governance certification, IoT, and counter fraud. And we currently certify more than 2,000 companies a month. So actually, it's more like 2,200 companies a month at the moment. So that's where we get our information from. Next slide, please. So the majority of our certifications are Cyber Essentials, and many of you will know about Cyber Essentials because it's often a requirement for particularly government contracts now. Cyber Essentials consists of these 5 technical controls. I mean, they look relatively techie there, but they're actually very, very basic. It's more about housekeeping than anything else. Next slide, please. By supporting companies to put those in place, we see lots of issues that companies have. We see what they find difficult, what they don't find difficult. We also include insurance for small and medium-sized enterprises that get cyber essentials. And so we see the stats on how many claims there are and why the claims happen, which is really important. So just from my point of view, the questions that a board should ask themselves, whatever the size of the company, is, first of all, are the basic technical controls in place? Because those are the ones that stop the breaches. So they stop commodity attacks, but even the nation state attacks start off with the basics. So if you have the basic controls in place, they're going to have to work harder to get into your company. Also, know what your most important data is. So, I mean, we know what our most important data is, and we absolutely guard it. It's really important for companies. Not all data is the same. If you lose some, it's not such a big deal. If you lose others, it could be the end of the company. What's your most important data? Is it extra protected? And then, of course, the big question, which is a horrible thing to think about, but you just have to go there. What would happen if there was a breach? And NCSC has a free online thing called what is it, in a box? It's something in a box.
Oh yeah, I've seen that. It's the hack in a box or the
no,
box.
Exercise in a box.
Exercise in a box.
We'll cover that one.
Brilliant. So that's a really good thing to do, because it just makes you go there. You don't like to think about it, but if you did have a breach, what would happen? And if you've thought about it, it's easier if it happens. Finally, ask difficult questions of your supply chain, which was the last the last presentation. How secure are your partners and suppliers? More and more we see the big breaches coming from partners and suppliers, and it's all very well afterwards to say, well, it wasn't us. Actually, your customers don't care. So that's me. Thank you very much. Over to the next one.
And thank you, Emma. I would just like to point out that for those of you who don't know about the National Cybersecurity Centre's website, they have a huge amount of really valuable resources. And I would recommend everybody to at least pay a visit and see what they have available. Of our 3 wonderful police officers, who is going next?
I'm quite happy to share our presentation if I could just get the permissions to display that, if that's okay.
Brian is about to give you godlike privileges, I believe.
Amazing. Can you see my screen?
Very well, and it looks very slick.
Perfect. Chris, do you want to take the floor?
Amazing. Okay, I'm going to start with a couple of things that you can do to help protect yourself. As you're all aware, cyber incidents could put a major strain on your business and would have caused major disruption to operations if you've been involved in one. So let's look at what you can do to help protect yourself. So the NCSC have got and have produced the Cybersecurity Small Business Guide, which contains our most fundamental advice, and it's designed to be achievable and affordable to all organisations to implement. The majority of cyber threats are preventable by implementing some basic controls. And following the advice in this guide and implementing it could save your business time, money, and reduce the risk of reputational damage against the most common types of cybercrime. Just to note, though, that although it's called the Small Business Guide, it's suitable for organisations of any size. A bit of a statistic here for you. The Department of Digital, Culture, Media and Sports Cybersecurity Breaches Survey of 2019 reported that just over a third, 32% of all businesses have identified at least one cybersecurity breach or attack in the last 12 months, and 31% of those are among micro or small firms. However, just to point out that a lot of cyber attacks are significantly underreported, so it's likely to be significantly more than that. Next, we've got the board toolkit. So we recognise that boards are pivotal in improving the cybersecurity of their organisations. Really important there. The NCSC develops the board toolkit to bring together relevant cybersecurity guidance and resources aimed at board members to try to help board members get a little bit more technical by suggesting some key questions to ask and to encourage essential discussions about cybersecurity to take place between the boards and their technical experts. It's a resource to be used to help you develop your own cybersecurity board strategy, one that can adapt to fit your own unique cultures and business priorities. You need to have this all in place before a cyber attack happens. That's really, really important. Next, as we spoke about before, we've got the NCSC's Active Cyber Defence, which includes a number of tools. The first one being Exercise in a Box, which is a free role-playing activity that employees can take part in. It simulates a cyber incident and allows you to see how effective your business is at incident response. So there's 10 standard exercises, 1 technical scenario, and 3 micro exercises. And these include ransomware, phishing, and passwords. Really, really good. Definitely worth a look. The next is the early warning system. It's a notification system that will provide you with intelligence and will notify you of any incidents or network abuse events and vulnerability alerts that involve your business. So it will notify you if it sees any issues connected to your organization's assets, which you've made the NCSC aware of when you signed up. Next is logging made easy. That's really, really good for smaller organizations that don't have any other logging tools in place. It's free and it will notify you of things like software patches that need doing, who's running admin controls, or even who's using a machine at a particular time. So that's really, really useful if you don't have anything like that in place. And next, we've got the Vulnerability Disclosure Toolkit. This is for organizations of all sizes who want to learn more about implementing a vulnerability disclosure process. And finally, we've got the Suspicious Email Reporting Service, which is free to use. If an email appears suspicious or you think it's a phishing attempt, report it. You can report it to report@phishing.gov.uk. That sends it to the NCSC and they'll investigate it. It's a free service. You or any member of the public can forward any suspicious emails to there and it will get looked at for you. So I'm going to pass you over to Shiv now, and she's going to look at some myth busting and case studies.
Thanks very much, Chris. So we'll now take a look at some of the common myths that are held around reporting cybercrime and a couple of case studies. So the first thing I'm going to do is talk about the myths. So the first myth that we commonly come across is that cyber training providers and legal departments caution against reporting to law enforcement, as they actually believe all recovery will stop as soon as law enforcement are involved. I just want to point out, we don't do that. We will treat, for instance, a ransomware investigation like a crime in action. So we'll treat it like a kidnapping or blackmail, which basically puts the primary objective to the forefront, which is the safe recovery of the hostage. In computing terms, that would be the safe recovery of the computer network or return to normality. We will, however, seek to work alongside any incident response company that is brought in. The second biggest myth is that we don't accept organisations paying the ransom. That's not true. Now, once the first steps have been taken as a return to normality, the CISO may want to pay the ransom. Although we recommend against it, if that is the only thing standing in the way of your business from returning to normal, we will stand by the business decision made to pay the ransom. The support doesn't just cease there because you've made that decision. We have a duty and obligation to support you. And finally, a really big question that we often get asked is, what is the point in me reporting? Because the police can't do anything for me specifically anyway. Most offenders are abroad. You might have seen very recently in the news regarding an organised crime group called Evil Corp. They've been discovered to commit serious cyber attacks and have affiliates globally to help carry these out. We have actually given support to the FBI through the organisations that have reported, and this has then been fed into a process where they've been convicted in the US. Now, this work is enabled and facilitated by the work that we do and the sharing of the information through the NCA and the FBI and the contributions have made. We often get hampered by the lack of reporting, and therefore that collaboration can be hindered as a result, and therefore the understanding of level of risk is misrepresented. So if you're going to take anything away from here, it's we won't hinder your recovery from ransomware, and any information that you do provide us can help, not only in the UK, but internationally as well. There is a significant benefit for reporting and multi-agency collaboration taking place. So I'm now going to move on to a couple of case studies. So the first case study, as you can see on the screen, is an internal malevolent activity case study. I'll set the scene for you. We recently had a case in court for a recruitment company based in Nottingham. They had an insider attack of someone dismantling their network, trying to bring the whole business down. And it starts off with an employee being dismissed and leaving behind a disgruntled team of 3 or 4 people. It's really important to note that this department that was left disgruntled was the IT department. And as you can imagine, they hold a lot of power over the computer network. So access to the computer system was not disabled like it should have been. And as a result, the ex-employee was actually supported by his ex-colleagues within the company who offered him additional passwords and access rights back into his old accounts. He entered those accounts, went in, deleted several parts of the domain, including the Active Directory. And as you can imagine, he trapped himself inside of the network, and he had done that much damage that it became so unstable that he was unable to cover his tracks. The weekly turnover for this organization was in the millions for the recruitment agency, and the impact was huge as they paid wages for all the agency staff that were living hand to mouth. It had a massive wider impact to other organizations that were working in conjunction with the recruitment agency. And unfortunately, in this instance, the agency went bust as a result. So what can you really do to stop this from happening? Well, some of the things that we could look at are around your onboarding and offboarding policies that are in place with HR and IT. Make sure that your vetting process Vetting processes are robust and the relationships are built well with HR and other relevant departments to support in that process. Ensure that IT remove access and disable or delete accounts. Have an annual review in place around access controls. That's really important. And ensure that employees have least privilege access to do their roles. It can't be underestimated how having a good relationship across your departments is crucial to your business. I'll now move on to a second case. Actually, we've had a couple of these cases within the East Midlands quite recently, and they both seem to have the same MO. So incidents have taken place inside of a corporate network, which have been represented on a screen as a blackmail stating, pay us £1 million or we will delete your network. In this case, in both cases actually, Cyber Incident Response Company was drafted in and both companies paid significant amounts for them to be drafted in. The Cyber Incident Response Company themselves came back and they basically said that we think this is a sophisticated attack enough to be state actor level. And it was at this point that a referral was made to the police and they were called in to conduct an investigation. In both cases, it turned out to be an intern operating as an IT bod from within the company. And in both cases, the interns felt undervalued and they decided to take it into their own hands to be paid more money by trying to force the management's hand by blackmailing them. So again, the take home here is never trust anyone, zero trust. Make sure you eliminate the obvious to rule it out before drafting in a third-party company, as they can be very costly. So what are the things that you can do to stop this from happening? Again, it goes back to your onboarding and offboarding policies, making sure those are in place with IT and HR, making sure that you've got a good, robust vetting process and relationships are built with other relevant departments, and maybe try and eliminate or rule out kind of the internal activity before drafting in an incident response company. We recognise that can't be done in every case because you may have time constraints or you might be within that golden hour, but it's worth a shot. And again, I can't stress this enough, build better relationships with senior management and IT. It is a symbiotic relationship. You can't have one without the other. And therefore you do need to have some level of trust, but at the same time, you have to foster a really good relationship with them. I'll now hand you over to Chris, who will talk to you a little bit about what to do if you fall victim.
Just really quickly, Action Fraud is the Police's central fraud reporting centre in the UK. If you are in the middle of a cyber incident, you can report to us online, actionfraud.police.uk, or you can now call us 24/7 on the number on the screen. We have, this is a new service. We've got cybersecurity professionals and really good call handlers on hand to help you. So we'd recommend doing that if you've got an attack in progress. So next is the Information Commissioner's Office. They're the data regulator in the UK. And under the Data Protection Act of 2018, you have an obligation to report any data breach without undue delay, where feasible, within 72 hours. So my point around that is the ICO are actually, just like the police, incredibly helpful. They're not there to just fine you or to find fault. And as we've experienced, they're incredibly helpful. So it's definitely worth getting in touch with them because, again, they are there to support you. And in addition, you may have an obligation to report any data breach or cyber attack to other regulators, such as trust and grant funders. So that's our slide done. I didn't know if you had anything to add, Karl.
Just experience, really. If people want to go through that, things I find as I go through with talking to companies and such.
Please.
Okay, just a few things just to note. Obviously I go out to these jobs, so if I'm out to a job, it's gone wrong. Just some basic things I see quite regularly. Patching. Don't wait to patch. See companies not patching critical errors for 6 months, just waiting to see how things go. You leave yourself open. Backups. We've gone to companies where they backed up properly. They're back online within an hour. We go to other companies that don't patch, so they don't back up. They don't test their backups. We've seen them going out of business. So that's just a key thing. And cold storage backups, not just on the cloud. just get some things offline, because if someone hacks your company, next thing they might do is delete your backups, delete cloud backups, and then do the ransomware. So that's quite typical. Get your policies right. RDP, just really, really common with ransomware. Just companies seem to have very, very lax controls around this. So just get your RDP connections and policies sorted. Limiting admin accounts to who needs it. Get some training in there. And as it's been mentioned before, get a plan in place. You don't want to have an attack and then have to have a board meeting to plan what you're going to do. Get a plan in place beforehand. You might actually mitigate a lot of the issues by having that plan, and then you're actually ready to go. I'd sort of mirror what my colleagues have said. We're not going to get in the way. When I go out to a ransom attack, I don't say you need to stop what you're doing in order to let us get our evidence. We can often come out, we can assist you. The last ransomware attack I went out to, I provided signatures for common attack vectors, which we'd got through reporting from previous attacks. In the past, we provided companies with a format for the encryption keys so that they can look at breaking them themselves. That's been successful in the past. We can give you advice. Obviously, when we've had it before where people bring in companies and they say, yeah, it's a nation level attack, it's insider, or it's just the ransomware scripts being resold. And another thing just to consider is with ransomware is a lot of the time, it's not just the ransomware, it's your data being published. So that's something you just need to have in mind. But I'm not going to go on and repeat what other people have said. If you want to ask questions, I'm more than happy to answer.
Thank you, Karl. And I really appreciate what everyone said. I think there's some very interesting perspectives. We do have a question that's come in, actually, and I think it's quite an interesting question. Probably in the old school world, it would be around integrity. And that is, the question is, if a physical item is easy to see missing and feel the loss, cyber is not tangible. So in other words, I think what they're trying to say is we could either amend or delete or alter. What kind of detection process would the team recommend that an organization has in place to identify such issues? And Emma appears. I don't know if you don't monitor is the statement that's in the chat.
Yes, exactly. And that's key to knowing what you've already got. Asset lists, information asset lists, all of those things are absolutely key that companies need, before they have a breach.
Okay. So you need to be aware of what your assets and what your data is. And then you mentioned several things from the NCSC in relation to perhaps login made easy. Would that have some facilities in there to look for unusual login attempts, perhaps? Or
absolutely, any logging. So Windows has got system logging built in that is really good. It doesn't need to be set up properly and enabled, but you need all audit trails enabled, anything that you can get really, and just making a note of what you've got, what's important, knowing what's where is also really important. You don't know what you've lost if you don't know what you've got.
I think all of us would know if we got robbed from our bank, right? Because we check our bank account frequently. But do we check our cyber assets in the same way? Perhaps not. And I think there has to be the development of some simple good practices around being aware of what you have in your organization and how that can change and evolve over time, so that you can keep a close eye on it. What I'm trying to say is it's not just back it up and everything's going to be okay. I think we need to have a deeper level of awareness of that. We have a statement from Jamie Hopkins saying, I think it's important to know what is normal and our flags for anything outside of the ordinary. Intrusion detection systems, looking at baseline activity levels and so on, and then fluctuating outside of that. What's your views on these sorts of things, guys?
Yeah, I think, can you hear me?
Chevy, we can hear you, but we can't see you.
Amazing. I think my Zoom is not functioning quite right, but yeah, absolutely. Having a baseline is really, really important, because how are you supposed to really know what is going on if you don't know what normal looks like? And there should be a number of tools that you use to kind of monitor this, and there are enterprise management systems out there that kind of check out your network. Again, IDS, IPS is really important. And it's kind of a trifactor between physical physical security, administrative security, and technical security. And if you can use all three of those to your benefit, it's really useful. But having a baseline is the first point of call, because all of your systems will be able to detect that there's something not quite right if it doesn't match. If there's behavioral analytics going on in the background, or a computer's functioning slightly differently at 3 o'clock in the morning when nobody's supposed to be online, the earlier that you can get that flag, the quicker you can investigate, and then the faster you can shut it down if it is anything malicious or nefarious.
I would say that there are many highly sophisticated, very expensive products out on the marketplace, but you don't have to have those. There are many alternatives that you can get that are very simple, that are quite easy to implement. Emma's world is very much involved looking at the small to medium enterprises. And I would say that just having something in place, something simple, doesn't have to be a huge amount of money. It could be just a little checklist that you do every now and again. It's going to save you so much time, money, and not get yourself caught in this situation.
Can I just comment, John?
Of course.
So it's very easy, and we see a lot of companies buy really expensive, complicated things and spend a lot of time trying to configure them. They don't necessarily get configured right, and they're not as valuable. And yet often we see companies don't have an asset register. So, they'll say, yeah, we've got loads of mobile phones and loads of laptops. We're not quite sure what version they're on or where they are. That actually is more of a threat than seeing who's trying to attack you. Because if you've got people using laptops not being updated or legacy, that's going to be a really easy way to get in. So that's kind of, I would say that is your first point of call. Know what you've got and make sure that it's up to date. Then you can start thinking, okay, we're here. How can I look at who's trying to attack me or who's accessed my network? So I would suggest you get the basics in place first before you go looking for, the next level, which I would say is monitoring and logging, which is a little bit more complicated.
So I was about to ask each of you for a short, succinct. Emma's just very rightly stated, get an asset register and make sure it's filled in, and strangely enough, review it every now and again to make sure that it wasn't done 5 years ago and you've got a whole new set of systems in place. From the enforcement side or from the protection side, do you have any final words that you would like to offer as advice to our audience?
Could I add something?
Of course.
Backups. Backups are really, really important, but they're only as good as however up to date they are, and just ensuring that they've been protected. One of the things that I've found out quite recently through the NCSC are the backups that you have, if they are kept on an encrypted drive, or making sure that the keys are not online, and making sure that you have an offline up to date backup. You can audit that, and that's something that will I can't stress how important having a backup is. For any of those that have tipped out to a ransomware job, and the backup's all been encrypted, making sure that it's offline or separate, and making sure the keys haven't been encrypted with it.
I know,
really significant.
I know a lot of these attackers will go for the backups first and then go for you because they know that you'll rely on your backups. So excellent advice by all of you. Just a quick response to Tim, whose question was in the chat. I think I would start with the National Cybersecurity Centre, then getsafeonline.org. There are plenty of, or Action Fraud. All of these things will give you very good advice in relation to what's happening. My personal thanks to all of you. What a great session. Great to see you all. Thank you very much for the work that you're doing in relation to the protection and enforcement in a highly complex, very challenging environment. Emma, you're probably one of the major contributors to cybersecurity in the UK in relation to what Cyber Essentials has achieved. So thank you very much for that.